today's speaker introduction, I would like to hand over the call to Palika Mataji. So, Palika Mataji, please take over the call. Thank you so much, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, all assembled devotees. Thank you, Pavitra Madhavi Mataji, for giving me an opportunity to give a brief introduction of Maharaj. Bhakti Rasayan Swami Maharaj, His Holiness, is a disciple of His Holiness Indradyumna Swami Maharaj. Maharaj is a great scholar, well conversant in English and Russian, and a teacher of Bhakti Yoga. He travels across the globe trying to spread the message of Krishna consciousness to every nook and corner. He recalls how his first visit to Mayapur was never meant to be, but Krishna made it happen. It was in the year 1993 when he was in Russia as interpreter and secretary of Bhakti Govinda Maharaj, when latter suggested him to come to Mayapur. But Bhakti Rasayan Swami Maharaj humbly declined, saying he did not have the money to go to India. Then Bhakti Govinda Maharaj contributed $100, and the rest of his visit was sponsored by Krishna's divine arrangements. It was in Mayapur where Bhakti Rasayan Swami Maharaj went in the most memorable Navadvip Parikrama of his lifetime, thanks to his chance meeting with Tamal Krishna Swami Maharaj. It was in Mayapur where Maharaj also led a team to serve the GBC members. Maharaj has been actively supporting Food for Life programs. He organizes leadership training schools and does so much more. It's our fortune to have such an exalted speaker on board today. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Maharaj, are you there in the call? Guru Maharaj, Hare Krishna.
Kumudiki Mataji, is Maharaj on the call?
1 minute, I'll check. Hare Krishna.
No.
It's on?
Not yet.
It's still joining, yes.
We start 7:30.
No, not. Just now. Give the introduction and then I'm there.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, are you there in the call? Huh?
Hare Krishna. Yes, I'm here now.
We are so fortunate to have you here on the call. All grace to Sri Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Please
Thank
take
you.
over the call, Prabhuji, before any further ado. Hare Krishna.
Okay, so thank you everybody
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
inviting me. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, is there any possibility that you can on your camera, Maharaj?
Let's see. All right. Yeah.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Maharaj.
Welcome. So we'll chant Jaya Radha Madhava for a few minutes, and then we'll read the text. Jaya Radha Madhava Gunja Bihari Radha Madhava Gunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Shri Radha Madhava Ki Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Sri Ranga. Om Agyantimirandasya Gyanandana Shalakaya Chaksharam Militam Yana Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manabhistam Stapitam Yana Bhutare Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vanchakapatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhudevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vijayamahakirya Mahaprabhu Nirmaya Kshayati Yadmushpurusha Bhante Gunam Sadasa Sajasmaka Lankashishta Magaman Vachantine Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, Hare Krishna. Today we're going to continue reading the fourth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Chapter 18, Maharaj Prithu milks the earth, texts 9 and 10. So I suppose I'll just read the Sanskrit synonyms and then translation and purport. By His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Vatsam kalpaya me vira yenaham vatsala tava dokshye amayantaman anurupam cha dohanam sabkaram cha mahabaho bhutanam bhuta bhavana annam ipsitam uddasvat bhagavan vanchate yadi. So synonyms: vatsam, a calf; kalpaya, arrange; me, for me; vira, or hero; yena, by which; aham, I; vatsala, affectionate; tava, your; dokshye, shall fulfill; kshiramayan, in the form of milk; kaman, desired necessities; anurupam, according to different living entities; cha, also; dohanam, milking pot; tottaram, milkman; cha, also; mahabaho, almighty armed one; bhutanam, of all living entities; bhuta, bhavana, or protector of the living entities; annam, food grains; ipsitam, desired; urjavat, nourishing; bhagavan, your worshipable self; vanchate, desires; yadi, if. Translation: O great hero, protector of living entities, if you desire to relieve the living entities by supplying them sufficient grain, and if you desire to nourish them by taking milk from me, You should make arrangements to bring a cow suitable for this purpose and a pot in which the milk can be kept, as well as a milkman to do the work. Since I will be very much affectionate towards my cow, your desire to take milk from me will be fulfilled. Purport. These are nice instructions for milking a cow. The cow must first have a calf, so that out of affection for the calf, she will voluntarily give sufficient milk. There must also be an expert milkman and a suitable pot in which to keep the milk. Just as a cow cannot deliver sufficient milk without being affectionate to her calf, the earth cannot produce sufficient necessities without feeling affection for those who are Krishna conscious. Even though the earth, being in the shape of a cow, may be taken figuratively, the meaning herein is very explicit. Just as a calf can derive milk from a cow, all living entities, including animals, birds, bees, reptiles, and aquatics, can receive their respective foods from the planet Earth, provided that human beings are not asat or adrita vrata, as we have previously discussed. When human society becomes asat or ungodly or devoid of Krishna consciousness, the entire world suffers. If human beings are well behaved, animals will also receive sufficient food and be happy. The ungodly human being, ignorant of his duty to give protection and food to the animals, kills them to compensate for the insufficient production of grains. Thus no one is satisfied, and that is the cause for the present condition in today's world. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Vatsam kalpayame vira yenaham vatsala tava dukshye shiramayan kama anurupam cha dohanam dukharam cha mahabaho bhutanam bhutabhavana annam ipsitam ujjasvat Bhagavan manchate yadi. O great hero, protector of living entities, if you desire to relieve the living entities by supplying them sufficient grain, and if you desire to nourish them by taking milk from me, you should make the arrangements to bring a cow suitable for this purpose and a pot in which the milk can be kept, as well as a milkman to do the work. Since I will be very much affectionate towards my calf, your desire to take milk from me will be fulfilled. Hare Krishna. So this is a very nice two verses, and there is a lot to discuss in here. According to Srila Prabhupada's presentation, there are 25 distinct elements in this verse, and we only have an hour, even less, because we have to leave time for questions. So I don't think we'll be able to discuss everything this verse, and especially Purport explains, but we'll try to address at least major points. And the most important things in here are love, not just loving relationship with Krishna, but loving relationship with others. And as it says, love is the force which makes the world go around. And system. And of course, system refers to science. That's why Srila Prabhupada was saying that Krishna consciousness is very scientific. And there are at least 4 distinct titles. Bhumi Devi, the earth in the shape of a cow, is using to address Prithu Maharaj, who is Shaktivesh avatar of the Supreme Lord. And so the first title she is using is addressing Maharaj Prithu as Vira, Vira means hero. And it is important to understand that Krishna is the only hero, and without Krishna we are all zero. And our only value, if we add 1 to zeros, actually Srila Prabhupada was explaining that everything we have, Janma, Aishwarya, Shuddha, Shrivi, whatever might be the case, high birth or high position in the society, Aishwarya, opulence, Shruta, knowledge, high education, or Shri, bodily beauty, or many other things we might have, these are all zeros, completely worthless. And the only value, if we add 1 in front of the zeros, then the more zeros you have, the more value you have. So by adding Krishna, everything becomes very appropriate and very valuable. And the one is Krishna. And we can see, because Prithu Maharaj is Shaktevesh avatar, which means that he is Jiva. And yet he is empowered by the Supreme Lord to such an extent that he directly represents the Supreme Lord. He is non-different from the Supreme Lord. So this is the example of how beneficial Krishna consciousness can be, that we can become empowered instruments in the hands of the Lord if we become purely Krishna conscious, as Prithu Maharaj is. And some people, of course, might argue, and they might say that why do we say that Krishna is the only hero and everybody is zero without Krishna? We see that there are so many heroes in this world. For example, there are so many amazing things people do even though they might not be Krishna conscious. And there are many examples, of course. One example, which is very striking for me, is that one man, he was in the mountains, and then he actually jumped across the gap, and he covered the distance which was greater than the Olympic record in jumping lengthwise without any training. So how that is possible? Very simple. That man, while being in the mountains, he came across the tiger, and so he took to running for his life, and the tiger was running behind him. And when he came across the gap, he realized that his only chance for surviving is to jump to the other side. And he did it, and the distance was so great that the tiger, he didn't want to risk, and so the tiger left him alone. So that's one example of a great hero. And the other example is in one instance, there was a fire in the house, and there was one old lady on the second floor of the house. And this lady, when the fire started, she took a trunk with all her possessions and all the valuables, and she brought it down outside, and then the firefighters came, and luckily the fire was put down. without much damage to the building. But when they were getting the trunk up in the house again, it took 6 big and powerful men to carry the trunk alone with great difficulty. And they were very surprised how this fragile old lady could carry that huge trunk on her own downstairs. So we can say this is another example of a hero. And but if we examine all these examples, we can see how the verse in Bhagavad Gita from the 3rd chapter becomes very relevant. Prakriti kriyamanani gunaya karmani sarvasha ahankaro vimudhatma kartaham iti manyate, that the bewildered living entities, they think themselves to be the doers, even though in actuality everything is carried out by the modes of material nature. So whatever heroic activities have done, and there are unlimited examples, we could keep giving them, they actually not carried out by the living entities, but they carried out by the modes of material nature. And of course, Krishna is the master of the modes, as it is explained in Bhagavad Gita also. And that's why still Krishna remains the only hero, and he just fulfills the desires of living entities. So indirectly, it is still Krishna acting, using others. And sometimes we can even do good things without planning for it. There is one story, one man, there was one village in India, and as we know, there are blind wells which people dig, and then these wells, when they run out of water, no one bothers to cover them, and so they remain there, and then they get covered by the grass. And oftentimes, if someone is not careful, one may fall into that covered blind well. And so it happened in one Indian village, and this well was a little bit outside of the village, and one boy fell in there, and he started screaming and crying, and as a result, adults heard him, and they came around the well, and they started discussing, what do we do? Coming from Russia, I've noticed that Indians and Russians are very, very similar in their character and habits. That's why in India they say, India, Russia, bhai, bhai. India and Russia are two brothers. And good things and not so good things. And one of those things is that, people talk a lot, discuss a lot, but when it comes to doing things, there are not so many people to actually do things. And so in this particular instance, these people were discussing, this poor child, we have to rescue him. So who is going to rescue? Maybe you should go down, no, maybe you should go down, etc. And then they couldn't decide who will be going down. And then one young man, he was a little late, and so he came running and he pushed through the crowd, and he was saying, what's happening there? Let me see. And as soon as he came to the edge of the well, he immediately jumped down, and he took the child on his hands, and someone threw a rope, and so he grabbed onto the rope, and he was pulled out along with the child, and everyone was congratulating him and glorifying him, but somehow he was not looking very happy. He was looking actually very angry. And he said, don't worry about your glorifications first. Let me see who pushed me inside the well. So this is another example of a hero like that. And so that's why we're saying there are no real heroes in this world. The only hero is Krishna. And we need to surrender unto Krishna. As we can see, Maharaj Prithu, he is doing amazing things. He is controlling the whole world. He is controlling the entire planet. Because the Supreme Lord, he is the master of the entire universe, what to speak of this planet. And even though planet Earth tried to resist Maharaj Prithu's pressure, but in here, she finally had to surrender. She recognized this is the Supreme Lord, and I have to do what he wants. And what is the first and foremost duty of any protector, and any protector is meant to represent the Supreme Lord, because the Supreme Lord is the original protector, and that is to take care of all living entities. And this is what Maharaj Prithu is trying to do. He is trying to make sure that Earth is providing with all the necessary resources, but then the Earth is saying that I can't really, I would love to give all the benefits, milk in that sense. Milk means the most nourishing food. There are actually many people in India still, even today, who subsist on milk only, milk fasting. Some people, some devotees or yogis, they live only on milk. They take nothing else because, as Prabhupada describes, milk is a miracle food. And actually, according to Ayurveda, milk can cure the body of any diseases, of any ailments. And I have the experience of that. I was very, very sick at one point, and my body was quite destroyed. And then I was recommended to go on a milk fast, which I did for about a month. 1 month of Kartik, I decided to just take milk only. And it was very interesting experience because I could immediately see the beneficial effects on my consciousness, purifying effects on my consciousness. It was very easy to chant the holy name and engage in my sadhana, and as a result, my body got completely cured, healed in 1 month time. And so, yeah, because milk has every single vitamin and nutrition, and it's a manifestation of the love of Krishna's most beloved animal, cow. And so by taking milk, human beings can develop all the good qualities, and they can also be very healthy. And so that's why Earth was saying, yes, I would love to give my milk, but I cannot give it by force. That has to be done out of love, because milk comes only out of love. And so I would need to have a calf, but some kalpayam medita, that please, or but some kalpayam medira, oh great hero, please arrange for a calf so that I could give milk, because milk is given by the cow only because out of her love for the cow, and then she's giving so much milk that it's much more than the cow is required, and that's why human beings benefit from that. And so this is the first and foremost point, that every benefit we can get if there is love. And in Krishna consciousness, it is very important for us to understand that serving Krishna can be done only out of love, and serving spiritual master can be done only out of love, and serving Vaishnavas can be done only out of love. And sometimes we speak of duty, of course, but duty is actually secondary to love, and it should never be replaced. And Srila Prabhupada speaks about it in one of the letters addressing one of his leaders. He says, whatever services devotees all over the world are doing, they are doing all these services out of love for me, and please don't try to force them, because if there is force, the entire society will be brought down to impersonal level. This is very interesting. Srila Prabhupada connects enforcement with impersonalism, because if there are only austerities involved, but there is no love, we can push ourselves, we can push others, but ultimately, as Nectar of Devotion says, the result of these austerities will only be that our hearts will become hard, and hard hearts are not at all convenient or suitable for development of bhakti. That's why it's really important to have loving relationships for devotees, and this is what Nectar of Instruction explains. And Nectar of Instruction is one of the most important books for us, because it gives the essence of Krishna consciousness in a very short and clear form. Actually, when the movement have started in United Kingdom, in Britain, the officials were very concerned. What is this new movement? What is this new religion? Whether it's good or bad, how do we understand it? What to expect from it? And then they started studying Krishna consciousness. They found out there are many books, and they were trying to identify which is the one book out of so many books Srila Prabhupada wrote on the science of Krishna consciousness, which gives very clear and very concise essence of Krishna consciousness. And they came to the conclusion that this one book is Nectar of Instruction, which is Upadeshamrita by Rupa Goswami. And there, Rupa Goswami explains that it is very, very important before we actually become Krishna conscious. That is the preliminary condition for becoming Krishna conscious, is that we develop loving relationships with devotees. And he says there are 6 loving type of exchanges with devotees: dadati pratigrinati, guhyam akhyati prichati, bulte bojayate chaiva. Sadviti priti lakshanam. Priti lakshanam means loving exchanges. And these are manifested in giving gifts and receiving gifts, speaking about confidential subjects and revealing, and listening to confidential subjects, and guhyam means covered, hidden, something which is hidden, and Bhulte bhajayate chaiva, that giving prasadam and receiving prasadam. So I would say in our society, in terms of giving and receiving prasadam, everything is very well organized. There is ocean of prasadam in the Hare Krishna movement. Sometimes it's even called kitchen religion, and so there is not even one recorded case of anyone, dying of starvation in ISKCON, even in the worst kind of circumstances. But actually there are recorded cases of devotees leaving their bodies because of overeating prasadam. So this aspect of loving exchanges is very well organized. Tadati pratigrinati, giving gifts and receiving gifts. We can say giving donations, receiving donations, that's the most popular gift. That's also organized to some extent. That is happening to some extent. But I would say that the pair which is not very well taken care of is guhyama kyati prichati. Speaking confidential subjects and listening to confidential subjects. Of course, we can say that topics related to Krishna are confidential, and that is done, but confidential things mean that we can also discuss with devotees, especially senior devotees, of course, trustworthy devotees, something which is really troubling us. And unfortunately, one of the things which destroy bhakti is prajalpa. And the worst type of prajalpa, as explained by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, is speaking ill of other devotees in their absence. And in the greater society, it's called gossip. And so gossip is defined by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur as the worst type of prajalpa. And unfortunately, our society, I would say, is plagued with gossip. That the research have been done by independent researcher in our world headquarters, Mayapur, which is a good representation of our international community, because there are nearly 50 languages which are spoken in Mayapur, so devotees from all over the world are living there. And actually, this researcher says that the levels of gossip in the community are way, way, way out of, norm. So devotees, they just love gossip. They just love talking about each other's problems with other people. And this is so detrimental to our spiritual advancement, we cannot even start imagining. And unfortunately, devotees are not careful enough, and they indulge in that anartha very freely, which is sad. That due to their own ignorance, devotees are destroying their own Krishna consciousness. And then they wonder, why is it so difficult for me to chant my japa? Why is it so difficult for me to follow sadhana or regular principles, or why I don't have taste for my Krishna consciousness the way I had it before? And the reason is very simple, that we are destroying our own bhakti with these foolish activities, especially gossip. And of course, it destroys the worst thing, that it destroys trust among the devotees. And so if there is no trust, how can there be love? and as a result, devotees become isolated within themselves, and there is a danger of turning to impersonalism. And so, unfortunately, all the problems, all the obstacles on the path of devotional service acharyas have described are manifesting themselves in a very shocking way in our society, and due to lack of knowledge or maybe thoughtfulness, devotees are not addressing their own problems in a proper way. And there are ways to address this, how to become free from this tendency of fault finding, as Prabhupada says, or how to get rid of that desire to be engaged in gossip. And so it's very important for us to cure ourselves of these malicious tendencies. Because without developing our loving relationship with devotees, there is no chance of us becoming Krishna conscious. So everything we can get is just trying to externally pose as Krishna conscious people for name and fame with no real taste. So that's the kind of heavy reward given to us by material energy. And then another point which is very important. Yes, and of course, maybe we should say a little bit more about this loving relationship between the devotees, because this is what this is the point which is addressed here in this verse, that the earth was ready to give all the benefits if she can have someone to exchange love with. And out of love, she would give those benefits. And yes, we wanted to also elaborate a little bit on a positive side, because positive side is described by Kapiladev in the 3rd canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, very famous verse, chapter 25, text 25. Satam prasanga mama virya samhito bhavanti hri karna rasayana katha tajjasana dasva pavargavatmani sadaratir bhakti ranu pramishyati. So Lord Kapiladev explains that Satam prasanga mama virya samvido, that one can samvido really understand mama virya, my heroic, my glorious pastimes, only in the Satam prasanga. And Satam means devotees, Sat. And prasanga is a very interesting word, because sangha means association with devotees. And prasanga means prakrishta rupana, sangha, intensifying prefix before the word. And so there has to be very, very deep heart-to-heart relationships with devotees. And only by having those relationships we can actually relish and understand Krishna's pastimes. And Bhavanti Hrit Karna Rasayana Katha, that if we have those type of relationships with devotees, then we can really enjoy Rasayana Katha. Rasayana means nectar, discussions about Krishna, and Bhavanti Hrit Karna Rasayana Katha, that they go into the ear and they then go into the heart, these pastimes. And Tadyosanat Ashu Apavargavatmani, that very quickly one traverses the path of Apavarga. Apavarga means the path of liberation, and liberation means something which is opposite to material bondage. And so Prabhupada explains that Pavarga is the group of Sanskrit vowels, labial vowels, and so they're pronounced with the lips. And this group is consisting of the 5 sounds pa, pa, ba, pa, ma. And pa refers to parishram, and parishram refers to very hard work. How hard? Pa, pena, foam is coming from the mouth. And then what's the result of this hard work? Ba, banda, one becomes bound by the results of one's own karma. And then next one is bha. Bha means bhaya, fear, one becomes fearful. And the end result is ma. Ma means mara, one is dead. And so this is material existence, that we work very hard with foam in our mouth, and we become bound, fearful, and dead at the end. And this is material existence, and this is completely opposite to Krishna consciousness. There is no parishrama in Krishna consciousness, there is only parikrama. We're only offering our respect to the Lord and serving the Lord. And so, as Henry IV, the great-grandfather of our Ambarish Prabhu, said, that find the job you love and you wouldn't have to work another day in your life. And so, because everything devotees do is service to Krishna, it's not a hard work, it's a pleasure. And of course, there is no foam in the mouth, there is only prasadam in the mouth. And instead of bondage, one becomes free. That this is one of the greatest benefits of Krishna consciousness, freedom. And that's why Bhagavad Gita speaks about regular principles of freedom. And there is no fear, bhaya. Devotees are abhaya, following in the footsteps of the greatest devotee in our society, Abhaya Charanaravinda, Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. And of course, devotees do not die. They become immortal already in this lifetime. And we might say, but how is that? It is because we don't even use the term dying for devotees. We say devotees leaving their bodies, because devotees realizing that they are not the bodies. And so actually the most fearful moment of death for materialistic people, because death for materialists means that they lose everything, and they go to some place they don't know, but they know that's not going to be good for them. So they are very fearful for these 2 very serious reasons. Losing everything they are attached to in this lifetime and going to the place they're not going to enjoy for sure. But for devotees, it's the opposite, because for devotee, every day, for materialists, every day is closer to death, as Bhagavatam describes. I'm calling this Ayurvedic verse, Ayur Harati Vaipumsam Udyanastau Chayanasau, that every single day, every single rising and setting of the sun is stealing away one more day from the life of everybody, except those who are chanting and hearing the glorious pastimes of the Supreme Lord. And so for materialists, it is one day stolen from their sense gratification, from their lives. But for devotees, the closer they are to death, the closer they are to Krishna. And that's why serious devotees are thinking, thanks Krishna, you know. I will leave this body soon. That means very soon I will see Krishna face to face. And I'll have the opportunity, instead of, you know, existing in this bag of bones in the material world, I'll have perfect opportunity to serve Krishna happily and forever, ever after. And so devotees are happy to leave this world because they go to Krishna. And that's why there is no death for devotees. There is only leaving the body and leaving material world behind and going to Krishna. So whatever is the cause of great misery for materialistic people is the cause of great bliss for devotees. That's why many times devotees die with a smile on their face. And materialistic people are very bewildered. What have you done to that person that he is dying so happily? Because death is not a very happy occurrence. And so this is one of the proofs. But yeah, these are the benefits. And it is happening very quickly. If devotee is sincere, Shadaratir Bhaktir Anukramishati, Bhakti says that if one has firm faith, then one develops very strong taste, and then one develops bhakti, one's love for the Supreme Lord. And then the other very important aspect is, which is described in this verse and the purport, that there has to be system, that certain arrangements had to be made by Maharaj Prithu to get everything necessary from the earth. He had to get a suitable calf, different calves, as we will learn in next verses, and suitable pot, and suitable milkman. So everything has to be organized properly. That's why Srila Prabhupada, before leaving this world, he said the two most important things to ensure that Krishna consciousness will go on is organization and intelligence. And of course, intelligence comes first, and then if intelligence is there, everything can be organized very nicely. And that's why Krishna consciousness is equated to Buddhi Yoga. Devotee is meant to be Buddha, as Bhagavad Gita says. So in this way, devotee is opposite to materialistic people. Materialistic people are not Buddha, they are Mudha, they are foolish. And of course, then the level of our intelligence is defined by the level of our Krishna consciousness, because it is Krishna who is giving intelligence to those devotees who serve him with love. As 10th chapter, 10th verse of Bhagavad Gita says, Tesham satata yuktanam pachatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayanti te. And so intelligence is given by Krishna to those devotees who serve him with love. And so what does it mean to serve Krishna with love? That means to do only what Krishna wants. And what is the topmost thing Krishna wants? Krishna wants everyone to become Krishna conscious. Krishna wants everyone to come closer to him. And that's why the topmost manifestation of love is sacrificing our interests for the sake of helping others to become Krishna conscious one way or the other. And so if someone's sacrificing one's life in this way, then Krishna is reciprocating and he is giving a lot of intelligence to those devotees. And that's why the first purpose of ISKCON is to systematically propagate spiritual knowledge to society at large and teach all peoples the techniques of spiritual life in order to check the imbalance of values in life and achieve real unity and peace in the world. And it is very interesting that the word Krishna or even God does not appear in this first purpose because Srila Prabhupada didn't want to limit Krishna, because Krishna is unlimited, to any particular religious denomination, indicating that everyone should get benefit. And spiritual knowledge is universal. And spiritual techniques are very, very similar in all traditions, and ultimately there is only one God, one Supreme Lord, and every single religious tradition is meant to help people to come closer to Him. And that's why he explains very clearly that the purpose of the Krishna consciousness movement is to establish God consciousness in the world, to help everyone advance spiritually and to help everyone to solve all their problems. And so this is the systematic approach, and this is the example we see in the activities of Prithu Maharaj. He is trying to take care of everybody and solve everybody's problems, and these are the duties of the devotees, which is also indicated in this verse. There are many things, as I said, we will not be able to discuss all of them, but one, we kind of discussed the first line of the first verse, and then the last line of the last verse in here is Bhagavan Vanchate Yadi, that the Supreme Lord, she is addressing King Prithu as Bhagavan because he is empowered by the Supreme Lord directly. And Vanchate Yadi, she says, if you have this desire to fulfill the desires of all living entities, then you should do everything in a very systematic way, in a very organized way. And this is how devotee is supposed to be. Devotee is supposed to be vancha, kalpa, tarubhyascha, kripa, sindhuve, evacha, patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Devotee is supposed to be like desire trees, fulfilling everyone's desires. And yes, this is the example Prithu Maharaj is giving here, and this is the example we're supposed to emulate and follow. We're supposed to be thinking how everybody's desire can be fulfilled in Krishna consciousness or through the application of Krishna consciousness. How can we make sure that everyone is happy in this world? And so that's the purpose of our movement. This is what Srila Prabhupada sacrificed his life for, and this is what he expected us to continue. Hare Krishna. So we will stop here, and if anyone has any comments or questions, and I want to thank everyone for listening. You might ask or add whatever you like to ask or add. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much Maharaj for your beautiful class and valuable instructions. I thank you to come to this conference call and give your association. Thank you so much Maharaj.
Thank you.
Thank you Maharaj. Now I would humbly request all the devotees who have any questions or comments for Maharaj, they can ask now. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. I also wanted to thank our hosts, Jai Guru Sundar Prabhu and his good wife, for inviting me to the class. It's a real pleasure to give a class for all of you. I can feel that it's a very enthusiastic group, of course, devotees coming from Indian background are very enthusiastic because Krishna is your Lord, especially if you are Gujarati, as my host, because Krishna is not only your Lord, but your direct ancestor, because Krishna started Dwarka and the whole Gujarat comes from Dwarka. So, yeah, naturally, Krishna is very dear to you, and you are very enthusiastic to hear anything connected to Krishna. Hare Krishna. So, anyone has any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare.
Thank you. I had one question, Maharaj. I did appreciate the point about the theme about loving association of devotees is essential. However, whenever this topic comes up, the particular point, one point comes up about how hearing the association of devotees and discussing is more beneficial, even Krishna Kada like that. I wonder, does that also minimize the importance of reading alone or hearing alone also? That doubt comes up regularly, Maharaj, so I thought you could share.
Sure, yes. Reading books and hearing are different processes, and because reading books falls into Smaranam, and hearing is Shravanam. So both are important, but Srila Prabhupada explains that Shravanam comes first. And so if we don't associate with devotees, it's like Prabhupada says very clearly, without devotee association, anyone who thinks one can advance Krishna consciousness is just hallucinating. So we can't really advance just by reading books alone. As one disciple of Srila Prabhupada said, Srila Prabhupada, if the best of everything connected to you is in your books, why do I need you? Why can't I just read books and that's enough? Because the best of you is in your books. And then Srila Prabhupada pulled his ear and he said, this book cannot do this, but I can. So that's why this is an indication why devotee association is important. Because then everything becomes very practical and very lively for us. Devotees can tell us off. The book's not necessarily, we can just read the passages we love and, hallucinate that we advance spiritually. I hope that answers. Thank you, Sundarama.
Yeah, sure, Maharaj. Thank you so much, Maharaj.
Question. Yeah, I think you asked that for other people's benefit. I'm sure you're listening and associating with devotees very nicely.
Yeah, it's for my benefit also, Maharaj. Yeah, I wanted to confirm.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Anyone else has any comments, questions?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. This is Gail. I just want to. Haribo. I had a couple of questions, but I just wanted to follow up first on the answer just now. You said that reading falls more into the category of Smaranam. So why would reading fall more into that category than Shravanam? What's the connection there?
Well, Smaranam means that we can read and then we can contemplate on what we've read, right? We can think about it. So it falls into the category of Smaranam, where, we are on our own and we can think. But if we are associating with devotees, then it's Shravanam and Kirtanam. Okay?
Okay, even though what we hear from devotees, we can contemplate on that also.
Sure, yeah. But when we are on our own, alone with the book, we can, we can contemplate without any interruptions.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I had a couple questions about the cow and milk. Krishna's way of loving us is by, providing us with his favorite animal, which is the cow, and providing our maintenance through her milk. So I was just wondering how there are so many people who have allergies to milk. How should they feel if Krishna's expression of love is through, the distribution of milk primarily?
Yeah, somehow, certain karmic aspects might be difficult, might make difficult for people to have full access to Krishna's love. But if someone is very allergic to milk or milk products, then what to do? One should take advantage of other methods of developing one's Krishna consciousness or one's spiritual consciousness.
Mm-hmm. And also in connection with the cow, just playing like devil's advocate a little bit, a person might say that, well, the cow is Krishna's favorite animal in the spiritual world, but here in the material world, the cow is just another jiva, another, conditioned soul. So how are we to understand that the conditioned soul in the body of a cow is also Krishna's favorite animal?
Well, the body of the cow is very special because it describes that all the demigods are living in the body of the cow, and if you serve the cow, then you please all the demigods. And it's like a very easy way to, get all the benefits just by serving the cow. And there is a lot of scientific research that if you, say, like have high blood pressure, which many people have, it's enough to touch the body of the cow to normalize your blood pressure. And so there are many other things. And so actually it's not yet fully discovered, but it, Western people start discovering the therapeutic benefits of associating with cows. And I've seen many examples of how cows are beneficial. And one friend of mine, he's the president of Tirupati Temple, Revati Raman Prabhu, and he has collected every single breed of Indian cow in his Goshala, and he's taking care of them. And these cows, they do not necessarily give lots of milk, so they give some milk, they use it for the temple and for the deities, but he says, it's an ongoing subsidy. It's very heavily subsidized Goshala, but this temple is flourishing, and he said it started flourishing since the time they started serving the cows, and so he believes that all the wealth they're enjoying is coming from serving the cow, which is perfectly outlined in Vedic scriptures that the cow represents Lakshmi, also the goddess of fortune. And actually, it's been described before the British colonization that India was abundantly flourishing country, and everyone was so happy. And the prime thing was serving cows. And interesting example, yesterday after we went to Gita Nagari, one devotee mentioned Cuba as an example of the benefits from the cows and bulls, because at some point, because Cuba was a communistic country and United States wanted to suppress Cuba, and so they cut all the, fuel supply, and Cuba was not getting any petrol, any oil, and they, they had this choice to either cease to exist or die or come up with some alternative solution, and they came up with the ox power solution, and they criminalized killing cows or bulls in the country, and they used ox power, and then the whole country survived with cows and bulls.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a national example of self-sustainable system without dependence on any artificial supply.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Maharaj.
You're welcome.
I actually just had one last question. I don't know if you want to give somebody else a chance right now.
Yeah, I'm afraid that we are
going over time.
Time is over. I don't know how we do it time-wise. Whoever is coordinating this class, maybe they can comment.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, if you have time, you can go ahead for the question, Maharaj.
Okay, yeah, sure. Yeah, we can have another few minutes.
Okay, I would just ask this one last thing is referring to when you were talking about the relationship between duty and love. And I understood you to say that, if we simply act out of duty, then, our dealings become impersonal. So now when I think of this term impersonalism, I think of doing things mechanically. I also think of, a person or I don't know, something that doesn't have features, So, I've also heard that duty is one aspect of love, So I'm not so sure why you are making this connection between duty. I know you were saying that it also leads to hard heart, but it is also an aspect of love. If you have a parent has duty to their children, or any relationship, really, some level of duty is there. So if you can elaborate on that. Yeah.
Yes, that duty is part of love, but if you remove love, then duty actually can lead to harmful results. This is what I'm saying, that, as in the example I gave, that Srila Prabhupada was telling his leader that whatever devotees are doing, they're doing out of love for me, but if you just put pressure on them, then it's not good. And pressure is required only when there is a break in love and trust. And so that's, when love and trust is there, then duties are automatically performed. This is the point I'm making. All right? And if we need to put pressure on duty side, that means love and trust is lacking. And so that's the, that should be red flashlight for us, that something is wrong.
Mm-hmm. And love, I guess you would define as simply wanting the other person's happiness without any desire to get anything back for yourself.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Maharaj, thank you so much for all your answers.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, I really like the point you made about prajalpa and how we should try to avoid that. So, in instances where we actually have prajalpa going on and we are there, but we're just hearing it, how do we actually get out of that situation?
Yeah, very good question, especially if someone is kind of more senior and we can't really tell that person that this is not good to discuss other devotees' faults. It's very harmful, and so there is an interesting approach Srila Prabhupada had to the subject. Like one devotee came to him, and sometimes discussing devotees' faults can be very practical also, because we need to deal with these things, right? And so one devotee came to Srila Prabhupada, and historically they were like serious problems, serious abuses in Japan. And he came to Srila Prabhupada and he said, Srila Prabhupada, this is what's happening in Japan. And he was telling him all the bad stories devotees were involved in. And Srila Prabhupada listened to him. And he said, that's really concerning me. And so I'm wondering, when are you going to Japan to sort it all out? And devotee was shocked. He said, Srila Prabhupada, I didn't mean I wanted to go to Japan to sort it out. I'm just telling you about it. And Prabhupada said, so you know that all these problems are there, but you're not planning to sort it out. Actually, you should do it immediately. And you have to purchase a ticket to Japan and let me know when I'm going there. I want you to go there as soon as possible and try to sort it out. So that was quite shocking to that devotee, but this was Srila Prabhupada's approach, that in Russia we call it initiative is punishable. And, if you come up with some problem, you should take the responsibility for sorting it out also. And, after other disciples, they learned about it, then they became very careful about bringing any types of problems to Srila Prabhupada, because Srila Prabhupada would just immediately lay it on them. And this is actually highly recommended approach in professional circles, that if you talk about problems, offer the solutions. If you offer the solutions, take responsibility for executing them and be accountable. So that's why, it is recommended that we talk about problems only with authorities concerned and not with anyone else. And we should be prepared to share the responsibility for solving it. And that's why if some devotee has this habit of, gossiping about somebody else, a very simple question to ask that devotee, so what do you think you can do to solve it? And so if you're not planning to solve it, then why are you talking about it? Simple.
Mm-hmm. Very nice, Maharaj. Maharaj, also sometimes when we don't get along with some devotees, even though we don't do prajalpa, we criticize them in our minds and we pollute our mind. So how do we protect ourselves from that situation as well?
Yeah. I mean, we don't have to associate with all the devotees equally. Srila Prabhupada says, if some devotee has bad qualities or bad character, that we should not really associate. We should respect that devotee because, okay, despite of whatever, he is still trying, he or she is still trying. But, close association with that person might not be very good for our spiritual advancement. And that's why, it's quite all right that if we respect all the devotees, but we associate only with those with good character.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you. All right?
Yes, Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you so much for the beautiful class.
So shall we stop here?
Yes, Maharaj. Once again, thank you so much for the beautiful class and very nice question answer session. Thank you, Maharaj. If there are no more questions, we would like to end here the call by offering my obeisances to Maharaj and all the Vaishnavas. Vancha kalpatarubhyasya sindhubheva cha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai. Das Thakur ki jai. Maharaj ki jai. Thank you so much, Maharaj.
Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you.
Koti Dandavat. Thank you.